Hey YouTube, Jason here. It's rainy, cold January. I'm not flying much right now. My annual's due next month. Thought I'd create a video just for fun, going back through my old photo album to talk about my 10 favorite airplanes. So I've been flying for about 33 years now. I've probably flown 30 different makes and models, but here are my 10 favorite. Number 10, the Piper Colt. So when I was a kid, my dad had a ranch in Central Texas, and we used to fly into an airport named Hamilton Municipal in Hamilton, Texas. And the character that ran that airport, and he was definitely a character, his name was Harry Hansen. And he kind of would buy and sell planes. He was an airline pilot, but when he wasn't flying, he would tinker with planes, and he was always trying to sell us being my dad and I, a plane. So long story short, one weekend we're up there, and Harry says, "Hey, I have this Piper Colt. Why don't you let me check you out in it?" So we went around in it, and it was a lot of fun to fly, but we didn't buy it. But here are my musings on the Piper Colt. I think it's a cheap airplane, pretty roomy for what it is, especially compared to something like a Cessna 120 or 150. A lot of fun. And I guess if there's anything to criticize, it really is a brick with wings. It has short, stubby wings. You pull that throttle back and it drops like a rock. Number 9, I actually do have my rotorcraft helicopter rating. Number 9 for me is the Schweitzer 300 CBI, based on the Hughes 269 design. So when I was working up in Canada, I learned to fly in Kalispell, Montana, or fly a helicopter, that is, and I really enjoyed it. It was just a lot of fun. It's kind of a bucket list thing. It was really easy to hover. I actually managed to hover on my first lesson. I attribute that to a lot of tailwheel experience. I think just flying a tailwheel aircraft, you kind of get a lighter touch for doing wheel landings and whatnot. Had great visibility, a fully articulated rotor system, but I don't see myself flying a helicopter again. I wouldn't go as far as to say I think they're unsafe. I'm risk averse, and at this point in my life, I just don't have a need to. Number 8, the Cessna TB10. I lived in the UK a couple times over my career, and I had a little airplane. I've outlined that in another video, a Zen Air. I sold that to a guy in Wales, and the local flying club at Earl's Colne Airfield on the east coast of the UK had a TB10 for rent. So I took that airplane and flew it out to Wales to deliver the wheel pants, or as the British call them, the wheel spats, to the new owner. And that was the first time I'd ever flown a TB10. It's got a great car-like interior, and to use a boating term, it's very beamy, very wide. Has gull wing doors, which I just think are quite nice, especially on a hot day, but it's not the fastest. Number 7 is the Cessna 152. I soloed, or my first solo was in a Cessna 152 in 1988 in September at West Houston Airport. Ubiquitous airplane, easy to land, simple systems, but when I soloed that airplane, I probably was 170 pounds, and I'm about 40 to 50 pounds heavier now as an aging, fat, middle-aged guy, so I'm not sure I could fit into it. Number 6 would be the Maul Aircraft, the 180 and 235 horsepower versions. Really is the Stoll champion. Bulletproof engines on both these airplanes. The Lycomings are especially bulletproof. Simple construction, just a lot of fun to fly. I've only got a couple hours in a Maul when I lived in Louisiana, but nothing but great things to say about it. Number 5, Cessna 170. So one of the aircraft I owned when I was in college was a Cessna 170. Great airplane, renovated it. It was just a lot of fun. Took that plane all over, went out to Big Bend National Park and all around Texas in it. It's a cheap 4-seater, can go anywhere, relatively speaking, but it's really not a 4-seater. I mean, with the 0300, you really are hard pressed, especially in the Texas heat of the summer to get 4 full-size adults in it, just because it's a little bit underpowered. And I found the 0300 a bit finicky. Others probably think, you know, they've never had a problem with them, and that's fine, but we just had a lot of sticking valves and just a lot of issues with that engine, but I wouldn't let that put me off. Number 4 is the Beechcraft Bonanza 35 series, the V-tails. I owned a 1955 F-35 Bonanza when I lived in Louisiana. This aircraft had an IO-470 engine in it, so that was a conversion. I used to be able to turn off or make a 180 on the runway on 22 right at Lafayette Regional Airport. The tower would always laugh at me because I could land this airplane with its flaps so short, and they're relatively light airplanes. It's a lot of plane for the money. It would do an honest 155 knots on 12.5 gallons per hour. It has an IO-470, enough said there, just again, touch wood, a bulletproof engine. The only thing I didn't like about it is when I did want to take 4 people in it, you really had to be careful about loading. And also in turbulence, you get the kind of Dutch rolling tail wag tendencies. Number 3 for me is the venerable Piper Archer. When I lived in the UK for the second time, I owned a 77 Piper Archer. Based it at Great Oakley Airfield, which was a grass strip in Essex near where I lived. Flew this airplane all over. We went down to the Pyrenees in France and across to Belgium. It's really a sleeper short field aircraft. What I mean by that is this airfield I kept at Great Oakley had a pretty short grass runway, and I was really able, even with 2 aboard and lots of fuel, able to get off a relatively short runway. Not that a 172 with 180 horsepower won't do that, but I just really thought it was a really good short field airplane. Relatively fast. I think it's a little bit faster than 172, and really this one didn't have a autopilot with altitude hold, and really when you trim it, it just trims out really well. I think it trims out better than the Cessna product. Number 2, the Cessna 210. If I had to replace my 310 with a single, this would be it. It is my dream single engine airplane. When I was about to leave Louisiana to move overseas the first time, I sold my Bonanza and had my commercial pilot's license. There was a construction company with a Turbo 210, and they asked me if I wanted to make a little bit extra money on the side, flying guys down to construction sites in South Texas and in Western Louisiana, and I said sure. And so I've got about 50 hours in a Turbo 210, and I just think it's one of the best planes. It's my dream single engine. It really is a flying pickup. It's fast. It's a bit heavy on the controls, but I quite like that, especially flying an ILS. So without further ado, drum roll please. My number 1 aircraft on my list is the Beechcraft 55-58 series. Got you guys. Did you really think I was going to say a Beech Baron when this channel is a Cessna 310 channel? I love my 310. It's my number 1. My mistress. It's a roomy hauler. Has the bulletproof IO-470s that my Bonanza had. It's reasonably fast. Maybe not as fast as a Baron, but the cabin's wider. And I couldn't imagine flying anything else at this point. Thanks for watching. More videos soon.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again."